So if you're going to disrupt a standard procedure and not be incorporated into the other tools that are being used, they're going to find a much more difficult pathway into the marketplace, regardless of how advanced they are.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome everybody. My name is Daniel Teo, a managing partner for Hunniwell Lake Ventures, and welcome to this roundtable on intelligent surgery. We're privileged today to be joined by Chung from NEA and David Uffer from Alira Health. Before I begin, I just want to say that intelligent surgery is probably not only one of the most exciting things to happen in the field of surgery in decades and possibly centuries, but it is also timely. Many of the tools that we're still using today in surgery are absolutely medieval. Now, the good news is that there is a wave, a tsunami of innovation that's in the pipeline, one that's going to change the face of surgery as we know it over the next decade. Today's topic is about intelligent surgery, and that word may mean different things to different people. Surgical innovations that help our surgeons see, treat, and heal. See refers to the various surgical, intraoperative visualization and navigation technologies, as well as novel point-of-care diagnostics that are non-invasive or minimally invasive, non-radioactive. Treat refers to different treatment modalities like radiofrequency, microwave, laser, ultrasound, as well as some of the more esoteric technologies like cryo and plasma. And in heal, we refer to wound closure, tissue healing, and tissue reinforcement technologies. And somewhere in there also is home and portable dialysis. So these are the areas that we are interested in and which we define as intelligent surgery.
For us, intelligent surgery goes beyond just the actual device. For us, it's the perioperative procedures and, of course, the post-operative patient monitoring. We want to see the inclusion of advanced sensors and advanced diagnostics that have either biofeedback or some type of advanced system.
When we talk about intelligent surgery, there are two steps. One is the device itself, how to make that safer, more intelligent, smarter, more user-friendly, more data-driven. But on the other hand, there is also this communication that's between devices. What are the major barriers or technological challenges that's been keeping us from getting to that vision thus far?
I think the first place, getting into the EHRs to enable more intelligent systems to integrate with the patient information that's either already been done in pre-surgical planning or incorporated into that patient information is key. Some of the other challenges are, I think the systems are going to be too large and the devices or the end effectors in the robotic systems will be too large to incorporate all of the technology that we're trying to build into them.
What hope is there for a startup? I mean, what can they do and how can they kind of overcome that sort of a hurdle?
To be honest, I think, we haven't made any robotics investments and actually, the robotic investments have actually largely come from tech firms and not necessarily from healthcare firms, med device firms. Part of that is safety, efficacy, health economics point of view. The hospitals are buying this. They want patients to know or think that they're the cutting edge. And then I would also say that if we want to expand this beyond, the United States, where we spend, 20+% of our GDP on healthcare, the costs do have to come down.
So still on the subject of sort of overcoming barriers and marketing and adoption barriers, I think one of the things that Hunniwell does is that we're a little bit contrarian. As a venture capital firm, most VC firms tend to invest across a diversity of space. We're actually investing in a very focused area. In our case, within the GNI, thoracic, endovascular, hepatology, urology space, so that our portfolio companies can enjoy synergies with each other. I think that the view is that when you're fighting against a 800-pound gorilla, you really want to have all of the help that you can get, and there's no harm in having companies kind of work and collaborate with each other. Dave, I want to ask you on this whole area of sort of overcoming marketing challenges. What does Alira Health have in terms of advice to startups?
I go back to the old saying, it takes a village, and we don't see any one company that's going to deliver all of the intelligent systems that's going to make an entire operative theater work seamlessly and intelligently.
Quick question for our panelists. You're Tuck, you're an investor, and Dave, you're a investment banker and advisor. As you look for opportunities in this space, what do you look for?
I think in this space, we would probably be looking for, for intelligent surgery. I would say I would have to take this more broadly. I'll be honest, with Intuitive, Medtronic, and J&J with robots, with surgical robots for GI. It's really hard to bet on even a CMR that's not that far behind. You can see Transenterix, Titan. There's dozens of them, and it's just not super clear how they're going to beat out the incumbents. If they were going to, it would have to be something fundamentally different that would allow for improved health economics. So it'd have to be a fundamentally cheaper system, or something that allows you to do, some surgery that you weren't able to do before. So there's a company, Vicarious, that has a robot that can sort of do a 180 once they get in, so it's easier to do a ventral hernia. I would also say, look, you kind of have to look at AI and robotics in other spaces, right? Like, that there's robots in other spaces, lungs, hair restoration, BPH ablation. There's got to be others. There's opportunities in it.
Yeah, good points, Tuck. What we look for people that have two components, either unique value propositions. So Me Too's are just not that interesting anymore, and then compatibility with either process, procedure, or technologies. So if you're going to disrupt a standard procedure and not be incorporated into the other tools that are being used, they're going to find a much more difficult pathway into the marketplace, regardless of how advanced they are. So if you have something that enhances a robotic surgery by vessel identification, or Tuck, I know, had a lot of themes along the line of bleeding identification and determining where the source of bleeding, or enhancing some type of reduction in bleeding. Those have to be incorporated within the current technologies that are being deployed. So we look for the interoperability within the current technologies that are being utilized, as well as something that's unique.
Thanks, Dave. We now have one question from the field, or from the room, and it's coming from none other than my colleague, Richard Fang.
My question is still, if you look at all those players, either is Intuitive Surgical and other players, J&J, Medtronic, they're all doing similar thing as Defensive will do. In order to do things drastically different, how do we do it? I mean, I understand the barrier from the incumbents. I would like the panelists to comment on that. Thank you.
Dave?
I want to be very clear. We don't look at intelligent surgery at Alira as Intuitive, J&J, and Medtronic in laparoscopic robotic systems. Intelligent surgery goes everything from, again, feedback of instruments, talking to the EHR, looking at standards of processes and procedures, and reporting to administrators. This surgeon is substandard. We need to do training and improvement. These surgeries are going extremely well at your institution, your in GI, but your GYN service is well behind your peers. There's so much that goes into intelligent surgery. If you want to ask how do you disrupt the Intuitive, I don't even think that J&J, even with their $4 billion ARS acquisition, or Medtronic now with their release of Hugo, have that completely identified yet. We'll see. They have 6 million surgeries that they've already performed. You have to have procedures done to be authorized to do them in some institution. That's a major disruption. So to even CMR, I think we only see 4 or 5 players in that particular market. However, if we're going to talk just robotics, not even intelligent surgery, we've landscaped over 165 different robotic systems in medical across everything from percutaneous needle biopsy all the way to knee implants. So There's a huge plethora of technologies out there in just robotics. I don't want to just purely comment on how you disrupt the three major players in the laparoscopic field right now.
But nevertheless, Dave, I think in whatever field, whether robotics or non-robotics, the reality in the medical device industry is that in many of these fields, it's often dominated by 2 or 3 incumbents that are out there. So in the competitive landscape, in the competitive analysis, the competitors are one thing, but who is also driving demand, and how do you get adoption at that end of the scale? I think that's also important. In some of our earlier discussions, Dave, you had some views about who is driving and demanding intelligent surgery today. You want to kind of share with everyone?
Yeah, look, this is a combination of the facilities and the administrators. If we look at what was done in the case of Intuitive, this was driven by the facilities' desire to draw in more patients by advertising and promoting robotic surgery and the benefits of that, not only for, say, prostatectomy, but we're trying to drive that into gyne surgery with hysterectomy and other gyne oncology procedures. Again, that was marketing efforts based on the facilities. The clinicians wanted to use that either the fatigue standing over patients for 7, 8, 10 hours a day, in driving multiple laparoscopic tools over that time. There's a lot of fatigue. Being able to sit down at a system and be able to drive those robotic arms without standing over that operative field is a huge advantage. And then there are certain areas where the talent is not done. It's not that the clinicians aren't talented. They might not be the most advanced laparoscopists compared to some of their peers or competitors down the road for them. And now they're able to perform certain procedures that they were precluded from with their laparoscopic skills, and that afforded them newer skills. So those are some of the demand generators from those who wanted to adopt certain systems. Of course, the payers are quite concerned about can we make the connection between the outcomes and the economics of those outcomes with the increased spend. There's no doubt that these systems cost more. The payers haven't noticed that as much because there's not a pass-through, so the facilities had to potentially eat the cost of a $1 million, a $2 million piece of capital and the maintenance of that, as well as an increased cost of the tools that go along with it.
Thank you, Dave. So we're coming towards the end of our session, and thank you everybody for joining us. One final word from our panelists. What final word of advice you may have to entrepreneurs who are currently developing a product in the field of intelligent surgery? Tuck, what advice would you give to our entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd say that for most things in medical devices that we've invested in, you definitely take in KOL feedback, but also, ultimately, publish papers on safety and efficacy that are super. But what I would say is actually in robots, KOL feedback and user feedback is penultimate. So that is ultimately, you need to have a system that is easily adoptable and intuitive for the doctor.
Yeah, beyond the KOL feedback, which is always paramount, ensure that you're talking to the hospital administration as well, and that they have other objectives and goals for the entire outcome and procedure that they're driving. And the intelligent systems now are going well beyond just that limited procedure, and they're looking at the entire outcome.
Thank you, Dave. And at Hunniwell, our take is clinical needs analysis. Everything starts with clinical needs analysis, ends with clinical needs analysis. That's the way to go. So thank you, Chung from NEA and David Uffer from Alira Health. I want to thank you and everyone else who's with us today. We hope that you found our discussions helpful.